Welcome to Comic and Screen. I'm Sam Otten, and I'm joined by my guest, Jason Book from houseofjb.blogspot.ca. Jason, thanks for being here.
Hey, anytime, Sam. My pleasure.
We're going to be talking about the new Superman issue, Superman 35, written by Jeff Johns, with art by John Romita Jr. So this is continuing the Ulysses Men of Tomorrow story arc. This is part 4 of that story. Jason, I'll let you have the first word. What do you think about this issue?
I thought it was good. I thought it was kind of more of a storytelling type issue. Like, not a lot happened, but what I did see, I liked. And it's funny, like, we talked before about the strengths and weaknesses of John Romita Jr.'s art, and I saw both of those in this issue once again. There were some facial expressions where it seemed kind of off and things like that, but the storytelling was well done again, and I did like what I saw as far as some kind of twists to making this new villain kind of original, and I definitely like the twist at the end of the book with what they're going to do, because we know something's going to happen between these characters, so I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, you actually called it in our previous video because you said, Ulysses was kind of paralleling Superman and they were kind of like digging into each other's character because they were similar in some ways. But I remember in our last video you said Ulysses at some point is going to turn around and it's actually going to be a confrontation between Superman and Ulysses. So
Yeah.
in this issue, it was kind of a storytelling issue of just setting up that turn of Ulysses actually coming from being this partner, kind of apprentice to Superman, to now him making this shift. Where, okay, are they going to have a showdown? Or it's not like they have real hatred toward each other or anything, but they've now repositioned themselves where they're kind of going to be antagonistic in the rest of the story, it looks like.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I felt pretty good about the story elements. I agree the Machinist has been pretty intriguing. Like, I'm pretty drawn in by that villain. I'm really curious about who the guy is that's kind of watching everything happen. We still don't really know who that is.
Yeah.
And they've revealed a little bit about the Machinist, but they've also planted some new mysteries. So, like, Jeff Johns, I think, did a good job of sort of like, as we learn something about the Machinist, then there's also this buyer, like somebody's buying his stuff.
Yeah.
So we're also now wondering who that is. So the story I thought was good. But man, so you mentioned John Romita Jr.'s art.
Yeah.
Through the first 3 issues, I kind of came to appreciate his storytelling style. But this one, I gotta say, was kind of a step back. Because I started out not really feeling very positive about his art. And then I started to kind of come to like it. And he pulled me into kind of the emotion of the story.
Right.
But now this one, the art really kind of threw me off. I mean, there were some panels where I was just like, boy, that's not good looking art.
Yeah, he always jokes. He says he has this style called deadline style because he's arguably one of the fastest artists. And this seems like one of those issues where he was maybe a little under the gun. And
Well, he should have had time, right? Because they had the Future's End month, so he had longer than normal for the issue. So I was just surprised. So he did have a few panels where I'm like, that looks pretty slick. Like there's one where Ulysses is kind of flying off and he looked really good.
Yeah.
And the storytelling was still okay, but there were just too many panels where I'm like, ooh, that's just kind of off-putting art.
I think, hear, yeah.
And then Klaus Janson was doing like the inking and the whoever was doing the coloring.
Yeah.
I think they tried their best to kind of rescue it. But there was also like a water scene, when they were in the ocean lifting the ship and everything.
I thought that part was really good.
I thought the action of them kind of lifting it and feeling the weight of it, and that was good. But for me, the thing that was distracting was the water like on their faces.
Ah, okay, I didn't catch that. Yeah.
Yeah, the water on their faces, like it just kind of threw me off. And I know that's probably really challenging artistically to do, to have, not just droplets in front of them, but actually water on their skin.
Right.
But so to me, the art was just kind of too distracting, and it was a step back for me as I'm trying to come to know John Romita Jr.
Yeah,
because I'm not as familiar with him as you are.
Yeah.
So
I thought that, like, for all that, the 2 parts that really stood out though was the part where him and Ulysses, Superman and Ulysses are lifting the ship. That was like illustrated really cool. That close up of the 2 of them.
And then, that was really good.
Yeah, and then the other part where he kind of like did that mind thing where he's like, well, let's see what all the people who have bought weapons or whatever off him, and that really cool panel where it was like tons of like weirdly drawn soldiers coming out of it.
Yeah,
where he was kind of like Vulcan mind melding him or whatever it was.
Yeah,
like that was really original and cool. So for all the drawbacks, 2 scenes in there, I thought, well, you've never seen that drawn that way in a comic before,
Right, and I agree. There were a couple good story moments where the art and the story really did kind of bring it to life, but
Yeah.
there were just a few too many poor panels that to me were they pulled me out of the story because I was just kind of like, man, what is going on
Yeah, I'd have to
with
agree
the
too.
art? Yeah,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the drawing style. But I think Jeff Johns is still carrying through. Like we talked before about how he's bringing back the Daily Planet type element,
Yeah, that
and
stuff was great.
yeah, I liked. I mean, he literally had a water cooler scene. Like it
Yep.
was, it
Yep.
was at a water cooler.
Yeah,
But I
no
thought that's
doubt.
good to just have a couple pages in the Daily Planet, get them involved, keep them in the story.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. And I thought the way the issue ended, I
mhm.
don't know if I've ever seen that done in a comic before. Like, I expected it to be like, okay, at the end they're gonna start setting up for a fight or something, but it's kind of a different thing. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So for me overall, I still like Ulysses as a character. He has obviously an arc that Jeff Johns has planned for him as a character. I think the Machinist is intriguing as kind of a villain, and I think there's this clear theme of kind of the violence and the technology and the weapons, and so I think Jeff Johns has a pretty good kind of story laid out. So I'm still really excited about where it's going.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah,
for me,
and
it's my journey of getting to know John Romita Jr. that I'm still kind of
right.
trying to make my way through.
Yeah, and it did have a couple classic Superman parts, like the parts where Superman was like really like trying to talk to Ulysses about how they do things differently as heroes and stuff. I like that kind of
Yeah,
stuff a lot.
right. The resolution to the end of the previous issue where
Yeah,
Ulysses actually killed that guy,
yeah,
that was carried forward in a story-wise sense really well. So
yeah, totally. Like I didn't see that coming at all.
yeah, so I thought a lot of good elements. I'm excited for the rest of it.
Me too. I think it's going to get a lot better. I mean, this even with those art drawbacks, this issue and whatnot, it was kind of a setup issue, anyways.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a solid Superman story, so I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm guessing there's probably a couple more issues in this particular arc, and
Yeah,
then
that's
I'm
what I've heard. Yeah, and I actually heard that like when it said something about in the solicitations about wrapping up their first arc, so maybe they're going to do more than just this one arc with that team.
yeah, and I would still definitely stick with them even with my kind of complaints about some of the art. So
Yeah, for sure. Like it's got a lot of potential, right? I mean, and I will totally agree with you. The first three issues were a lot stronger,
mhm.
so I can't see it just going down in quality for the rest of the arc. I would say this is probably just a blip.
Yep, yep. All right, so that's Superman 35. We'll look forward to Superman 36 next month.
Great, sounds good.